Does anyone have any questions for the group or anything else?
Yeah, pressure fermenting. I'm soon going to be doing a 10-litre trial brew. So it's the first time I've done a small batch brew in a bag. But what I want to do is going to be a lager, and I want to pressure ferment that in a 10-litre corny keg with a spunding valve on. The question is, I suppose, it's going to be up to 15 psi, which is what I've read. Do I set the psi on the spunding valve on my CO2, or do I let the pressure rise in the keg and then just set it in the keg?
You'll need to get if it's an actual corny and not some other like a mini
corny,
keg.
yeah.
Yeah. So because you need to put some pressure in it to seal it first of all. So you might just need to stick a quick sort of 15 psi in it, and then at some point just disconnect it, because otherwise you'll just be blowing your CO2 straight out. I mean, I would potentially just say like stick 20 psi into it, disconnect it, and then you'll know with I guess with the spunding valve, you sort of just open it up until the needle falls down to the 15 psi that you want.
Yeah.
If your fermentation takes off quickly enough, which it should do, if you're doing it warm, it should pick up pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul, your timing is amazing, because I'm actually going to do my first one this week, and I bought one.
Oh wow, I got one of those. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So I set it up onto a keg, and that I knew was at 15 psi, and this was closed, and then it's got a sort of direction, and then that just jumps up to 15 psi.
Yeah.
And then you sort of turn it until it just starts releasing, and then it goes like.
Yeah.
Then I think that is the sort of 15 psi setting. So I know this is now set to 15 psi, and I'm just going to plug that on. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, and that's
perfect.
How I understand it. I've not done it yet.
That's pretty much what I've done with it.
Or something else.
The only thing I'd say, Rick, is that when you can hear it, it actually vents a bit lower than you can hear it. So you probably set it at 13 or 14 or a little bit lower.
Okay.
It will go, so leave it for a while. And the other thing that's a little bit of a shame with those is it's really easy to knock that valve.
Oh, really?
You noticed it's very loose, isn't it? You don't need much.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tape it down or something when you've done it. But
right.
Yeah, like Lee said, if you stick your finger over the end of it, you can actually feel if there's some pressure coming out, even if you can't hear it.
Yeah.
I've got another question though. Is they say you don't create as much of a krausen, but so you don't need to leave as much headspace, but because it's a keg and you can't see what's going on, and I don't want beer going in here or any krausen going in here. How much headspace do you need to allow for? Does anyone know?
Another suggestion, Jacques, is if you put a non-return valve in between the John Guest and the gauge.
Yeah, between there. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one. Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay, the only danger with that is that those valves kind of are meant to close for liquid, I think, rather than gas. So that assumes, first of all, that it's going to close with a bit of krausen going up it. But if it does, then obviously you're going to start building pressure in that keg without it seeing it on the valve and on the dial. It's going to look to you like it's not moving, but actually that thing is building up like 50, 60.
Wow.
So I managed to get 45 psi into a keg by accident by putting the spunding valve on, but not opening it up at the end of a fermentation.
I wouldn't do that. I bought a check valve and they're crude.
Yeah.
I would say
I don't think it would work, to be honest.
I would use some anti-foam.
Okay.
I saw a YouTube video of someone fermenting in a clear fermenter under pressure, and it was less than a centimeter krausen on top. It's really small.
Yeah, that's what I've seen as well. That krausen is subdued really, and then with that pressure, it's coming up to maybe a centimeter at the most. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
What style are you brewing, Jack?
I'm thinking of like a Martin lager.
Because they say pressure fermenting is better for lager style beers than ales because it suppresses the esters.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm thinking a lager, yeah. Something like a Munich Vienna malt type thing. Maybe it'll change, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why you want the pressure ferment an ale, to be honest. I mean, that seems... Lagers, yeah, it makes sense. You can get it done really quickly, suppress the esters, and it's done really quick and fast. But with an ale, it's pretty quick and fast anyway. So, yeah, I don't know why you'd want to do it with an ale. But
Can you vacuum ferment to promote esters?
Krausen. Hey, Jack, another trick with the, if you are going to use antifoam, you don't have to put it in the beer. You can just smear it high enough up that if the Krausen gets there, it'll be you. So if you don't, if it all goes okay, you haven't even put it in the beer. It's only, I wouldn't put it right where the tube comes up, because when it gets tight, it's often too late. But you could just smear a little bit.
Smear like a line.
Yeah, and that stuff works a treat, I tell you. So.
Yeah, I've used it before. Yeah.
And then it's not in your beer if you don't if you need it, and it is there if you do.
Okay. I still think I'll play it on the safe side and at least leave about 20-25% just to be safe for the first time, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll do err on the side of caution. Yeah. Otherwise, you could potentially risk a whole brew day, and no one wants that.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You need one of those ones that they shove up your bum or down your mouth and put that in. Tell us all after.
You could try pinging.
Sanitize it first, Jack. Sanitize it first.
Yeah, exactly.
Try asking.
And rub it around the ring first. Is that it?
Fraser, is the stuff that you've used the like the Brewpacks anti-foam or the Hop-Aid stuff?
Just like
Lee got me into, which is.
I was gonna, okay.
Yeah.
Lee sent me this vial.
I buy it, and then everyone. Don't show him that. I sent Fraser a 10 for that.
Yeah, you want to see the size of the vial I got? It's like that big. You can tell who his mates are.
It was just far. It was just really close to the camera, Fraser.
Okay. Now I'm going to go and get the bottle he gave me. I'll be back.
Look, it's only tiny.
I actually found the little tiny bottles. They're only a mil, and thought I could have sent James one of them, but I didn't know I had another. I was really anti-foam, which I guess makes me pro-foam, does it? I don't know, but anti-foam. Till I got some, because my starters always boiled over, not boiled up, they're boiled over, and my and then the blow-off tube, where it goes in, that star sand, and that would go up, and it just stops it completely. You've got giant hands. You've gone and got your giant hand gloves, haven't you?
I've not got giant hands.
But the stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I always use them.
You only need a little bit. I'll send you a little bit.
If you got searched carrying that, you'd be in trouble. Looks dodgy.
Anyway, yeah, I'm pro anti-foam.
What I've done with the anti-foam is you mix it with a bit of sanitized water and put it in a little spray bottle, and then you actually got a really diluted version, because a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah.
So you just spray it on the top of the water and you're done.
Yeah.
I only really use it for the starters when they're in the flask, when it's going to boil up on the stove.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you only need a tiny bit for that.
Well, yeah.
Spatula look, that you probably can't even see it. And I just literally put a bit on the end of that, and that'll do. It's only about 2 millimeters wide.
So unless Lee thought James was really heavy-handed, that's why he gave him more. I don't know.
Sabotage his beers.
I've also learned they don't work on pellicles.
That's not foam, though, is it? That's biofilm or something, is it?
It's biofilm, yeah, but anti-foam does nothing.
Cool. Anyone got any other questions at all?
Another very quick one, if I may, Daz.
Yeah, go for it.
I've got 5 litres of English barley wine, into which I have added the dregs of 2 bottles of Orval. Assuming and it's been going about 3 months now. I haven't checked the present gravity, but assuming it's all going to ferment out, or when it's gone as far as it does, and I want to bottle condition it, do I treat it with the same regime as I would do any other bottle condition beers in terms of adding the amounts of sugar for the volumes of CO2 that I want?
Yeah, sure.
Or does the Brett act in some sort of different way?
As long as you've got a stable gravity, probably measured over a month, then you definitely know. 2 weeks is a good idea, but as long as you've got a stable gravity, then the amount of priming sugar is the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
But you'll find it takes a bit longer to carbonate, though. It takes like easy 3-4 weeks, depending on how much.
That's fine. It's an 11 plus English barley wine, so it'll get the time that it needs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of when you talk about, like, if you're bretting a beer that is technically finished, how much would you expect it to drop by in terms of the gravity, that is?
So Brett, if you think of sugars as like glucose is 1, sucrose is 2, maltose is 2, and then you get maltotriose, I think, which is 3. And the sugars get bigger and bigger and bigger, and dextrins are like big sugars. Now, Brett can eat bigger sugars, so your attenuation is not just dependent on what sugars are remaining. It's also like how much of the sugars the current yeast could actually handle. So what is left is dependent on, your mash temperature, etc., but also the type of yeast that's originally fermented the beer. So it's really about the dextrins that remain in the beer. So you could have a 10-10 beer with a whole lot of dextrins. Brett will take that down to 10.05, but then you could have a saison that finished at 10-10, and it's already eaten a lot of the larger dextrins, and there's not much for the bread to eat on. So I don't think there's one formula, though. It's dependent on the original yeast.
That's interesting. I've used WLP 099, which is a monster, and it took it down to 006. So maybe there's not a lot left there for the Brett, if anything, for the Brett to chew through. I need to check the gravity. Yeah.
I mean, I find when you give too much food to the bread takes over in such a way, it's so funky, it's, I don't know, too much bread flavors is not always that nice, or that's just me, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's correct what you say, that you don't really need to give much to eat for the bread. You just need to complement the rest of the beer with the bread character. You don't need the bread to overwhelm the whole of the beer.
You don't even need to give bread any sugars, because it does other things rather than just sugars. It actually converts a lot of your esters, what they call vinyl esters, into ethyl esters. Some of the hop oils it works on as well. It does a whole lot of stuff that's got nothing to do with fermentation. So to get the funky aromas, you do need sugars, because that's made from glucose. But actually, there's a whole lot of other stuff that Brett does that's, and you don't need a lot of sugar to get the funky flavors. So yeah, it's always better to not give it much. It loves the struggle, if you put it that way.
And the funky flavors could come from the priming sugar?
Yes, as well. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So if no one else has got any other questions, can I suggest a 10-minute beer break, and then Tom's going to talk to us about making a steam condenser?
Oh, I haven't missed it then. Good.
No.
Hey.
Hello, Benedict.
Waiting for it.
Hello, Benedict.
Hello, Benedict.
Hello, Benedict.
Oh, hello there. It is my middle name, actually, but obviously my son was on this. Little last time round. Yeah, who names their kid after themselves, eh? What a vain bastard.
Oh, Mark's back.
Cool. All right. I'll be back about 22. I'll put the little one to bed as well in the meantime. All right. See you in a sec.
What are we talking about next?
Making a steam condenser, I think I heard.
Certainly. Where is he? This is Tom. He made us a steam condenser a bit ago. Oh, yeah, there he is, up in the top corner. Thought he'd gone.
Good.
Hello. He's muted himself. I'm pretty interested
What
in
about
this.
those people who call, you say about people who name them after themselves.
Yeah.
But what about those people who choose a first name the same as their surname?
That's worse. That's almost as bad as choosing a first name after a city. That's another thing altogether.
I have made the mistake of saying that in front of someone who was then called John Johnson or something.
Wasn't it Gary Neville's dad was called Neville Neville?
It's just weird, isn't it? It's like calling yourself Withers.
Neville.
Wasn't that?
You must be in a right panic at the registration office, like, just before last orders or something. Just go, oh, fuck it, just call them whatever the surname is. Let's go. Lack of, yeah, it's not good.
I always think that about the Americans with the.
Yeah, he could be getting in there quickly with a funny name while the missus is still incapacitated in hospital.
Heard of that happening.
That's your chance you've got. Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like a bad long-term move.
I had your cream ale tonight, James, because I won't be around on Wednesday because I'm staying with family. So it was lovely, really, really nice.
Cool. Yeah, I had that. I had that actually the first bottle on tonight, and it's cleared out really nicely.
That's crystal. Yeah, absolutely crystal. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, very subtle.
When's that one featuring on a Wednesday? Is that next? Is this?
Yeah,
this week?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Oh God, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, so after I couldn't make it last Wednesday.
And the weather should be perfect for a cream ale as well. So.
Yum yum.
I've heard that the other guy brews a mean cream ale, so this was my first attempt. Yeah.
His is more caramelly. It reminded me almost of a golden ale. Yours is sort of crisper, more lager-like. They're quite different.
That sounds, yeah. It should be more lager-like, really.
Yeah. I'd expect it to be like closer to lager with a bit of character.
That's where you use a lager yeast that you ferment high.
No, that's a steam beer.
That's a steam beer, okay.
Or a California common. A cream ale is basically an American, almost an American light lager, but made with an ale yeast and some corn in it.
Yeah, similar to Kolsch in many ways.
Some corn in
it. But yeah, so not less than an American pale ale, less than a blonde ale. It's kind of my first ale, basically, or that we couldn't make a lager, so we made an ale that the lager drinkers could have.
I think that's what American brewers do as well. When they can't make a lager, they make a cream ale.
Yeah. I think mine's probably got a bit too much body and sweetness to it to be properly true to style, but again, only made it the first time, and the final gravity was like 10.06, 10.07, something like that. So
I thought it was the second time, James.
True, it was exactly the same recipe. Made it 2 weeks later after cooking up the first one. So
there wasn't enough sulfur in it for me.
Yeah. I've still got a whole keg of that first one is in a whole keg in the room next door. So
you like burping it every day.
Yeah, no, I'm just I'll have to clear that out. I've got my chest freezer arriving tomorrow for a Keezer. So
oh, nice.
You're on a party then, are you? Post-COVID?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'll bring a cake.
How many taps? How many taps, James?
4, I think.
4, wow.
Might be able to get more in there, but we'll see. I mean, I wanted to get 4 basically, and to be honest, it might be 3 and then 1 for aging or lagering or something like that. So up to 4. Let's put it that way.
Do 1 for lagering, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to having doing quite a few brews in a short period of time to be able to fill it up.
Oh, you will.
And then we'll see.
I've decided to go for something slightly different for the beer break, and I've actually gone for a hopped gin.
Oh, cool.
Where they're taking the gin and they have dry hopped it.
Who makes that?
This is from Yaletown Distilling Company. So Yaletown is a little district in Vancouver. And they've got
Did it say what hops they use in it?
I'm checking now. Tells you the botanicals. It doesn't tell you the hops. Just says brewers hops.
Probably not Galaxy.
Disappointing. Barrel number 1, Distiller Turek.
And is it hoppy?
It is actually, yeah. It's pretty decent. I tried some of it there, so I went in there and they were doing little samples of things. And I went in with just the view of buying a bottle of gin as kind of a holiday treat. And I tasted this one and 2 others. I was like, I'm going to have to get 3 different things. But it was worth it.
Cool.
Has anyone here ever tried distilling?
Sorry?
No, I thought about it a few times, but I've never done it.
I made a
I got the
still
grain
in
father and I
university and
get
set
the
fire
copper
to
to
my
go on top.
bathroom.
I'm tempted for the same reason, Fraser. I've got a grain father, so I think like I could just be distilling in it.
Yeah.
I'm in danger of killing myself with just a beer. So I wouldn't want to venture into spirits.
Well, I mean,
that's just a death sentence. It would be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was speaking to the old head brewer of Twickenham Brewery a few years ago, Stuart Metcalf, and he said, "Have you ever done it?" And he was doing he was at the time doing a distiller's master, which he's now got. And he said, "I said, well, it's quite dangerous. Really, you can just kill yourself." So it's easy. If you want to know if it's good or bad, mix it 50-50 with water. If it goes cloudy, don't drink it. If it's clear, you can drink it.
Ooh, all right.
So as a visual test, if you mix raw spirit with water and it's clear, it's good to go. If it's cloudy, fucking don't touch it.
Is that because the methanol makes it...
my finding about ouzo.
Yeah, ouzo then. Ouzo's basically poison.
Ouzo is bad and shouldn't be drunk, so this checks out.
Is that methanol that makes it taste?
I didn't test him on why, but he said even a lot of distilleries in Scotland, they do as a quick check, they'll get there and they'll just mix it 50-50 and it's clear. They know when to, for the heads, they'll be putting the heads off and they'll be mixing it with water, and if it's cloudy, and when it starts to go clear, they know then that's when they can use it.
Well, I don't know about that.
Is that just to remove the foreshots?
Yeah, they have the thing on the pipe, don't they, to take that bit off. Yeah.
So that's to remove the foreshots, and then thereafter. Okay, right.
Yeah, it's the heart you need, not the heads or the tails.
Like
they've got too many volatiles in them. So, but you say if you mix it 50-50 with water, and if it's clear, you're fine. There's no danger.
That's actually why absinthe is illegal in the US, is because they use the foreshots. They don't have that rule. And absinthe, I think most absinthe today is not made like that, but traditionally you'd keep the foreshots, and yeah, it was sort of poison. So they banned it in America, and I've actually met Americans that came to Europe just to try absinthe because they've never had it. Interesting.
And did it make their heart go fonder?
First part's methanol, isn't it? That's what and makes you blind. That's the problem.
and it had a bunch of wormwood in the original recipes, which is just literally a poison. I mean,
I've seen someone drunk on methanol. I've seen someone drunk on methanol, and it's not a pretty sight. It's not. Sorry, I'm from South Africa, and we have a lot of like moonshine, and yeah, it's not a pretty sight.
Whereabouts in South Africa?
Say that, Paul might remember, but when I was younger, the tramps used to smell a meths. They would drink meths.
Yeah.
And it wasn't unusual to walk past someone and go, whoa, and they'd been drinking.
The way you treat methanol poisoning is with an ethanol drip. So it used to be well known in the hospitals that people would drink meths and then go into hospital, so they would be put on ethanol drips.
Oh, clever. In a way.
Well, that's why they do it.
Yeah.
No naked flames.
Yeah, clever.
But isn't it still the case that you can only distill under license in the UK?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and it has to be a certain amount of volume. You have to do something like several thousand liters. This was one of my lockdown projects at the start of lockdown, and I've applied for and got my rectifier's license, so I'm legally allowed to redistill neutral alcohol into gin.
Okay.
Surprisingly easy to do. You just send off a form and a bit of a plan to HMRC. They're more worried about tax than any health thing.
They want their money.
Yeah, completely. And you do, back of a fag packet health and safety thing, and they rubber stamp it really. So yeah, as long as you're paying your tax and you're buying your neutral alcohol, you're allowed to redistill, rectify to create spirits.
But that's redistill because then you're only getting the middle bit already, so there's no danger other than explosion. Right?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. Or poisoning yourself with ethanol, but you're not going to get the methanol. But even on the sort of lower batches, the actual amount of methanol you get is really, really minor. So as Jack was saying with the 4 shots, if you're disposing 50 mil, 70 mil, you're getting rid of it. And if you bring your temperature up slowly and hold it at a certain temperature, that's when you'll take off your methanol.
This all reminds me.
Sorry, methanol becomes more of a problem when you're fermenting fruits. Like the old farmers would just put some fruit and then just leave it, and they would distill that, and that's where you get lots of methanol. But when you're using straight barley, the amount of methanol is tiny.
All right, didn't know that.
Just remember, I was down at Haywood's in distillery down South London, Balham Way. I think it's Haywood's, and they were doing a tour around, and then one of the rooms that wasn't yet opened up, it was all glass windows, and they had loads and loads of little stills there. So I kind of got chatting to the head distiller who wouldn't tell me what he was planning. And then I was just saying, I think I know what you're planning. Like, is this going to be a sort of a distill your own course? He's like, I couldn't possibly say, but... So they might be doing that maybe after lockdown, is kind of a place where you can go and basically, like I've been saying about the brewery, but for distilling instead.
I'm sure that'll be the same thing where you're distilling something safe or infusing.
No, they were actual stills. It wasn't an infusing kit. It was proper stills with the copper and everything.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them where, again, it's the same. It's the rectifying. So they just give you safe alcohol and you...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, instead of sort of just compound gin, you're rectifying gin.
Yeah, and if you're doing it under supervision in an already functioning distillery, then...
And electric as well, no naked flames. It's pretty safe.
I think there's a place in Portobello Road that does... you can do a gin making day and make your own gin with your own botanicals and what you make your selection.
Yeah, there is. I had to look them up as part of this. Let me find the name of it.
I don't know if people remember Rich Lock. I'm sure, well, if you've met Rich Lock, you'll remember Rich Lock. 6.5 foot tall and normally very drunk, and had more stainless steel in his brewery than most microbreweries. So I wrote to him this week about something, because he started selling gin last year. You can buy it online.
Retribution, wasn't it?
Retribution, yeah, and his gin's called Retribution Gin's good. And then he's moved to Frome. So that was in his shed in his garden, which again has more distilling and brewing equipment in it than most microbreweries and distilleries. And then he's actually rented a barn in a farmhouse, and he's got something else going, which was this is like a beautiful copper still. He's doing rum next, which he hopes to have by Christmas, and then he's going to do whiskey. He's doing right. He had a 10 grand loan from the government or grant from the government to do stuff. The gin's really good. if you can.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good.
The Ginstitute is the name.
Proper gin. It's like all juniper, isn't it? Real juniper here. But yeah, he's doing really well.
And I think he offered Lab a discount, didn't he? Isn't there a discount code?
I'm sure he would to begin with. Friends and Family was the one when it first started off, but
is that Rich Lock?
Rich Lock, yeah, it's really good. It's really good gin, but yeah, the rum and the whiskey are coming.
Has he given up ocean surveying then?
He has always been hoping to make him redundant, but he hasn't yet. So he does still do that. He had a second child recently. He's got 2.
Because whiskey is usually a very different beast to gin and rum, because most of your cost is actually in the barrels or the butts, as they call them, and that is where the cost goes. And then you've got to wait 10 years before you have anything that's sort of decent for the market. The capital outlay for whiskey is crazy. That's why a lot of new distilleries start with gin and then they do whiskey years down the line.
I mean, he started the barrel aging project. I think he's pretty aware of that. Paul, you've made some gin, you've made some whiskey, right?
We did, yes, indeed. We teamed up with Anno Distillers down in Marden in Kent, and it was the first Kentish whiskey. We made the whiskey wash, which was interesting. Sent it down there. They distilled it and aged it, and technically you're not allowed to call it whiskey until it's been aged for 3 years. And we released it on the 3rd anniversary. Yeah, it was very, very nice whiskey. Still hadn't got that depth of flavour that a 10, 12, 15-year-old single malt has got, but very, very nice indeed.
What do you call it then before it's 3 years old? Whiskyish?
I haven't got a clue.
The Scottish call it cleric.
Ooh.
Cleric. It's the clean stuff. Yeah, I think that's the word term for it. It's terrible.
The tramps love it.